Welcome everyone to Heart Talk, coming to you live from Kota Kinabalu in Sabah in Malaysia. Whichever part of the world you're watching in, I know there are many of you in different parts of the world with different timings, and I just want to welcome you and thank you for your company. Every afternoon on the Wednesdays and Fridays, we go live. And we want to reach out to you because Heart Talk is about heart-to-heart conversations, about real issues of health, wealth, and spiritual living. And we are living in difficult times. Post-pandemic, we are going through times of confusion, disruption, distortion, and there's so much that is happening outside of us that sometimes we succumb and become victims of what is happening on the outside. But I want to tell you that there's a great world that is on the inside of all of us. We struggle with so many issues of life, and I know that, having worked for 40 years in the marketplace as a medical doctor and 35 years as a plastic surgeon. I know the struggles, and I know that how much I have missed out on life because we're just focused on what we're doing, focused on patients, focused on producing results, and that is a cost when we talk about the science of living. Now, my guest today is one lady that the whole world should meet. She's Asia Pacific's best, and let me do an introduction. She has 25 years of managerial experience in the corporate and in the academic settings, but she's focused about you, each one of you who are in the marketplace. She deals with a wide range of personal and challenges, and actually her passion is for personal development, because when you and I are developed as personal, like individuals, it starts off like a ripples, isn't it? It affects our families, it affects our organization, it affects everything that wherever we work in, because we are a reflection of who we are on the inside. She's a transformation coach, and her approach is amazing because she's one person who can join and marinate and marry two voices that are in all of us. And one voice is the voice that's up there in the mind, it's called mind work. And the other voice is on the inner side of self, which is called the inner voice. And she brings both these voices into a meeting place that results in transformation. Her latest book is called Unleash Your Inner Sage, which is a bestseller, and each one of you should get it, including myself, because it talks about the inner voice as if the word unleash, there's a tiger inside, it goes in all of us that wants to come out. And we'll find out more when I bring her on. And this is something that's going to be exciting because many of us live lives as if we are victims of the place where we are working in the environment that we have succumbed to. So I want you to join me and join all of us here to welcome the one and only Dr. Thanaletchumi Sathasivam from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Welcome, Dr. Thana, and come join us.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Charles. How are you today? And thank you so much for your kind words in welcoming me in to this particular session.
It's a pleasure to help. I listen when I'm struggling for words because you seem to be in another planet.
I think, Doctor, you've actually mentioned it clearly. I think we have been in this very uncertain situation and just after post-COVID environment. I think every one of us, we just need that little space that to, tone down ourselves and, reactivate ourselves before we start off anything. And this is actually my garden, Doc. So I make sure that, a place that I just go after a long day, just sit, just relax. I don't do anything, and just to calm myself, listen to whatever that the day me has got to highlight. Probably we'll just go a little bit more further.
Yep. I will take you into the garden and out of it. But I can tell you something that I think anyone listening in and viewing in on Heart Talk would love to be there with you, because it's so inviting. I think that's the word that I would really say about where you are. And sometimes we don't go to places that are inviting. And this is something that we all deal with every day. And so it's a wonderful. Thank you for joining us on Heart Talk. Please call me Charles. Can I have your permission to call you Thana?
Definitely. Go ahead, Charles. No issues at all.
Okay, so welcome once again. And so we are here about this book, and I can tell you one thing. When I saw the title Unleash, it reminded me in 1966. There was a group called the Supremes. I
Okay.
don't remember, and there was a song called "Let Me Out, Why Don't You Baby?" It was setting me free. It was a
Okay.
song crying out from the inside to be released. And so much of us live lives because there's something that's inside of us that has been kept down. So I'm going to piecemeal your book into different, like any surgeon will, and do a post-mortem of how you got how you got to where you are. But when I was Googling and preparing this conversation with you, Thana, I was looking at the inner world. It's as if there's a whole world out there which is on the inside, and it's as if you need a travel agent to go in, because there are so many aspects to life that are all on the inside of us. And you talk about the inner sage, and then I was reading another one. It's called your inner Viking, the inner beast, the inner critic. Everything seems to be happening on the inside. And so I love your title because Unleash gives us an idea, or gives me an idea, as if there's a tiger on the inside which goes "Arr," waiting to be unleashed. And then you use this beautiful word, sage, which sort of calms down the spirit of what you're trying to unleash, which I think is a powerful conversation. So tell me first, how did you get the title? I want to go for the title first, Unleash, and then the word. Why did you choose sage?
Okay. And it's just interesting question there, Charles. I mean, when we talk about unleash, I think even before I move into the title itself, I mean, I am looking at my very own journey, where I am at this point in time, and what are the things that I'm grateful about that has actually led me to this part where I am at this point in time. What the others wouldn't have gotten, or what they have not looked into. So I had started going into the so-called, being from an IT background, it is more looking into the root cause analysis. When a system goes down,
Okay.
you would like to find out where it starts. Then, being an Asian, with our context that we are in, there are many aspects of our life where we are being conditioned, right from the parents, friends, family, colleagues, as we go along at different stages. Now, these conditioning beliefs has actually built us, and that has actually leached us all these while.
Yes.
Now, there has got to be a moment that you have to stop, take a step back, and look into yourself and do the root cause analysis again to see what has actually gone throughout this life, and where can you actually trigger the betterment of this entire role again. So that's where the unleash word came in. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, all of us, we do have potentials, and sometimes we tend to, change them in a certain way because of this conditioning. You see, after some time, our decision making process and, whatever that we do after that has got to do with this conditioning, the exposure, the experiences that we have throughout our life. Now, like you rightfully mentioned earlier, we never stop and recollect ourselves or listen to ourselves because of the life that we are in currently. We are busy. I mean, we are here and we try to make sure that everything goes on well. Families been taken care of, children have been taken care of. Yeah, with all these busyness, listening to our inner voice, that's a question actually. So, trying to get the little space to actually listen to it and then work forward is something that we all have got to do. I know some of us try our level best to go into this particular journey, but some of us feel comforted with whatever that we have at this point in time, and we say, never mind, let go with our life that there is currently. So there are two sides to the coins actually, but there are ways, and it's never too late to embark on this kind of a journey. So the sage here, I didn't want to bring the beast out. I wanted to look into the sage, somebody who is wiser, somebody who has been with us all the while. Meaning to say, if you were to ask the child, the little child in you, what you wanted to be in 20 years' time or 15 years' time, and if you get the genuine answer from that little child in you, what you should change and what would you advise the bigger you that you are now, the child would actually give a very generous, genuine, non-biased answer. Now that's the sage that we are looking at specifically at this point in time. So hence, that's the title, Unleash Your Inner Sage.
Now, powerfully said, powerfully written. And because, when you say unleash, you think there's something like an animal instinct inside that wants to challenge. And yet, you're talking about that particular part of us that has a wisdom, that has prudence, that makes good judgment. And you would think that this inner sage is something that you cultivate, you nurture, you grow in life. Is that correct?
Yes and no to that question, Charles, because
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's an animal instinct in there. No. I mean, when we were all born, obviously there were different thoughts that we had in mind. And, we wanted to do something and we are not doing it and we are somewhere else. So I'm just taking back, asking them to look back into what were your passions once upon a time and how things have actually changed. So that's where the inner sage is actually coming in, looking into the genuine path that we were all thinking once upon a time. It didn't happen for various reasons. It could have been the fear itself, that now that we are comfortable with something, why do we need to go and start everything all over again? Why would I want to rock the boat? So all these kind of questions can be disturbing us every now and then. But when you are quiet, when you look at certain things that can probably rekindle your passion thought back, then you will have this regret. I should have done that. I wanted to do that, but then, because of A, B, and C, it could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything along the way. I didn't want to do that. I'm okay now, but the thought at the back of your mind that sometimes may not allow you to have a peaceful sleep, that's also something that can be disturbing you see. So that's where the unleashed part was coming in. But there could be a lot of other things as well. As we go along, fear is one thing. We are worried about, how things would be if we were to change everything. That's already fine, pleasant, it's going on well, that's one thing.
Right.
And of course, when we look into the various social medias, sometimes the thought comes back. Everybody looks so good in social media. People don't know what's happening at the back.
Correct.
And growing up as well, we've always been looking into acknowledgements from our friends, our family members, our close relatives. And this has actually built a bubble around us that, they have got a certain perspective of who Thana should be. And Thana has got a different perspective of how Thana should be. Now,
Correct.
then you tend to wonder which Thana should be coming in. So for you to even break that filter and come forward is actually a challenge, Charles. And I think a lot of us wouldn't want to disturb that part of it. So we leave it as it is. So these are some of the things that can probably be the leech that's holding you back and not allowing you to move forward. So what this sage is going to do is go back, think what it used to be, and check all these things and see if you can actually remove this and move forward. That's where it's coming from. Yeah.
Okay. So I see your point, because there are many who have grown up in an environment that has not been conducive to feed the inner sage. If you see, there are so many voices inside, and what you feed will grow.
Yes.
And what you don't feed will sort of, die out. So if one is growing up in a family where the environment has been aggressive and struggling, and your inner sage has been kept down, at what age, for yourself, in fact, at what age does as inner sage start to, like an embryo starts to grow and nurture until, before it becomes a state where it is a hard nut and, and you become totally deaf and you can't hear this inner voice, that there's a wisdom in there. Because a lot of us live life or the way we have been brought up. And like you rightly said so. So at what age does one really start to, you're dealing with entrepreneurs, you're dealing in the corporate world, you are different ages there. Everybody has got a voice, and I suspect everybody's got a sage. But the question is, how do we recognize and how do we feed it right? In other words, I'm coming to the inner strength. How do you build that sage within you, and go
Let me
for
just
yourself?
start off. Yeah, let me just start off with my very own life experience. I
Yes,
think
please.
I'm the youngest in my family. I think this age gap between me and my siblings. I've got an elder brother. The age gap is about 14 years, and then my sister, 8 years. So being the youngest, kind of pampered, and I was kind of rebellious, I must say. When I say rebellious, it's not that there's a beast going out of me there, Charles, but it's just that, whenever someone is saying something, I may want to question them. But when I want to question them about why is it done in such a manner and how is it being done, when I start throwing in questions, the answers were normally, please don't ask these questions.
Right.
These are things that's been done all the time. So I have never suppressed that curiosity part of me within me. So that was always there. But as life goes by, I lost my dad when I was 12 years old. So then, there was like my mom who was very dependent on my dad, and being, from a very traditional family, a lot of things were, your emotions are not supposed to be expressed. It cannot be shared across, all those kind of things. So this again was questioning me. Why can't you express yourself? We watch movies and everybody, the Westerners are good in expressing whatever they feel, and we don't do that,
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so this has been like always being building, and there's always an ongoing argument between me, my mom, and myself. I mean, she comes from the baby boomer generation, and I am from the X, generation. So you can imagine this paradigm shift. There's gaps in between. So there was always an ongoing struggle in me just to make sure that, am I saying it right? Am I doing it right? And you can't check this with someone else. No, you're not supposed to talk about family matters with anybody else. You can't do that. So where do I go to? So you start reading. You read a lot of things, and when you start expressing your thoughts, again, the second battle starts off with whatever facts that you're sharing. So this was actually ongoing, but I should say, I got my very own freedom for my voice when I had completed my Form 6. So when
Right.
I completed my Form 6, which is more of an A levels, I should say, yeah. So we are going into a tertiary education. So I had to start earning for my very own, to support my studies and whatnot. So at that point in time, I had the little space to express my feelings, my thoughts, and so on. So it started building from there. And
Expressing to
at that,
whom?
it could be anyone. It was also my
Okay.
family, my siblings.
Okay.
It started off with them. So I felt comfortable, because when I start meeting with other friends who are able to express and they are able to do so with their family, then I realized there is probably different settings may have also given that kind of exposure that you're not able to express. Then I started working, the environment was different, so you're able to freely express. Because initially, when I'm supposed to speak up in meetings, I used to think twice. Should I not? How would the context be? It took me a while before I could actually go on expressing my thoughts and articulate things better. So then it started building from there. And of course, in a very traditional, married life, or came in, and, people think that the women kind of complete the entire circle when you're married. You are able to take care of your, new family and relationships there with the new family in-laws and all. So you tend to have another voice, stronger, I would believe. But
Yeah.
again, so that time, I was lucky enough that I met some of the motivators within Malaysia. I met Dr. Kadir Ibrahim. I met some others as well who have actually joined in with their talk sessions and whatnot. Then I believe that, it is not too bad when you want to express your thoughts. So that's how it started. Then there was actually this transformation within myself, whatever that I've believed and where I am and what changes I should probably do. Of course, coming back with project management background, that I've been working in project management environment for about a decade plus, and I also started off as an software development side. So we work in projects. Then the thought of building personal development became stronger. So you define what you want and you define yourself with all these things. So that's when I started to look into the root cause analysis I was telling you earlier. Yeah, what went wrong, what changed, where did the path go off? So that became something that was very frequently being done. I used to assess myself. I used to check on the gaps and then start working on little mind maps so that, I am not off track this time around after a long time in this particular journey. So yeah,
Oh,
Charles.
that's powerful because you have been fortunate to get into that space where you are surrounded by people who are challenging you, motivating you. Tell us, Thana, what's the difference between inner sage and core values? Because all of us have core values that we write down. I never wrote down on a piece of paper for the last 40 years of working life until I had my last guest, Catherine Gray from UK, and she talks about how important it is for all of us to have core values. So here we have core values. Here we have a voice talking about telling you what is right, what's wrong in a non-judgmental way, so to speak. And you got wisdom and all these things going on the inside, and you're faced with a world outside which can victimize you in many, many ways. And you get challenged in every environment that we go to. Take us deeper now, into that small little canopy that's over there with a small deck chair. Let's go in there because it's closing in now.
Yeah.
Writing on your one is writing on core values, because which comes first? The core values will feed the inner sage, right?
It goes both ways actually. Now, when
Okay.
when I'm talking to you about this inner sage, it kind of like, you are taking a step back, reflecting on yourself and what
Okay.
actually happens as we go along. Now, core value actually changes as you move along. I mean, in a conditional environment, your core values would have been totally different. And when you move out of that kind of a scenario, you're a bit more open to things. When you're open to things, your thought processes will actually change, maybe from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So at that point in time, you tend to open up a little bit to look into things. At that point in time, your core value changes, and then now it will be aligned to a certain extent of how you would be supportive and how the inner sage would be actually supportive to build your core values better. So at the end of
Okay.
the day, it's how open you are to gather off from this conditional belief that you're going to be with whatever thoughts that you want to remove from your mind. And probably, like in my case, I do a lot of self-talk, Charles. Sometimes when I hear too many noise within me, and I mean, when you go into a meeting room, you hear your boss say something and you see another boss say something, you listen to a lot of things, and you come back and you're supposed to do something. You just calm yourself for a while and you decide, and you kind of like cut off all the inner noise with your self-talk. All you have to do is like, you say what you have to do, what was the objective to achieve, what was the guidance received. So the rest of the things, it kinds of slows down. So you don't want that to happen. So I do a lot of this self-talk just to make sure that, other things do not disturb me or deter my progress. So that's
Wow.
something that I need. Yes. I do
It's
this every
powerful.
now and then. Yep.
Because I don't do the self-talk, because there's nothing. There's always that inner voice that says, "Quiet, just do what you." Because when you talk about self-talk, I mean, this is interesting, Tana, because you're like a psychologist sitting here in Glen Eagles Hospital, dealing with all these different personalities walking in. The gift of listening. You see, I find that when I talk to my children, they're all doctors, and they keep telling me over and over again, "Dad, you're not listening." And I think that's a very good point. Like when I see women who come in and see me because of their beauty and all that, I tell them to listen to what the skin is telling them, because
Okay.
you know what I mean, that your skin is a system, and it's just talking to you. It's crying out for water. It needs hydration. So just listen to what your skin is saying. Talk to me about how, I mean, you said about self-talk. You're challenging with all sorts of thoughts to yourself, right? And the inner sage is there, you know, with the wisdom kind of sitting there in that, you know, space, waiting to feed out on what is right and what is good for you. You know,
Yes.
the inner sage always has your best interest at heart,
Yes.
because
Yes.
there's another opposite there sitting there and trying to communicate the opposite vibes, and that's called the inner critic. You know,
Correct.
because all of us have that inner critic. So talk to me and talk to all of us about how to listen and know that the inner sage is talking, as opposed to the inner critic that is trying to overwhelm you with negativity and all that. Take us there,
Let me start with the self-talk part first here,
please.
Shaz. So the story here is you as a person, you've gone through a lot in your life. And sometimes you're willing to share it with others. Sometimes you're not willing to say anything about it. Now, the best person who would know about yourself, the sufferings you've gone through, the challenges you've gone through, the ups and downs of your life, it's you yourself. Um,
Absolutely.
so when you actually take something back, step back, and you're looking at something and you know where your root causes are, the self talk is basically reprogramming your mindset. It is just to affirm you to be the best person that you are. You need the pat on the back for whatever that you have done thus far. So this is where the self talk comes in. Now sometimes there can be noise that's you don't want. That time when somebody says something to you, you can actually ask them for evidence, because you here, as part of the self-talk, you are going to defend yourself so that the inner sage can actually be there to support you. So you're right in what you mentioned as your inner sage and the inner critics. So with this self-talks that's coming in, it is actually bringing down the inner critics by you recommending and asking for evidence, and saying that if at all you get that negative thought again, you remind it by saying, hey, you're going back on the wrong track. This is not you. Come back. You are the great person. You've gotten this and this and this. You've come this far. So these are the kind of self-talk that we actually do. Now, after that, within this self-talk and all, what I normally do myself, I do a lot of breathing exercises, Charles.
Breathing.
Breathing exercises.
Powerful, yes.
So when you actually calm down your thoughts, and your mind is actually at not going into a lot of activities from the alpha to beta level, it comes where it is not high on activity. That time is actually the quiet moment for you to sit calm and listen to what the sage is actually highlighting. So you can actually start with the self-talk, and you move on and you calm yourself down. Probably you can even do whatever wishes that you want at that point in time. And that is exactly the space where the mind, thoughts, and the inner voice actually meets. So how do you get there? Obviously, you have got to assess yourself. You would know what your gaps are, and you would be already drawing up a mind map for your improvement, which I have clearly written in my book, of course. I mean, step by step guidance on how they can actually achieve this part of it. So once you have that, that's your mind model for yourself. And then now you kind of visualize it, see it as in a form of image. Now that happens in your breathing techniques. When you breathe in, you see how do you want your future to be as per your improvement. There's no point of you not doing the improvement and imagining things. It doesn't work that way. You have got to put what is required in order to achieve what your mind map is all about. So our mind gets to see the image better. And obviously, a lot of experts have actually said, you like something, draw it out, paste it in your laptop, paste it on your fridge, place it around your
Yes.
house. As you walk, you get to see that. So your mind works more onto those kind of image. Yes, it does. So I tend to do that. So I have that in my studies and my rooms. I tend to paste a lot of post-it notes. Sometimes it flies off when the glue goes off and things like that. I need to, like, draw things back and paste it back. So this happens. So when this is actually in your mind, this is a kind of tonic that you are giving to yourself, and your sage will actually gives you the direction or prioritize things how to move forward. Now that can only happen when your mind is quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful. I mean, this is these are dimensions and faculties of life where we need to really tap into and know, because it's all there. There's the biggest world that is inside of us, and when you talk about reprogramming, we are all now moving into a phase where neuroscience is coming so much into the neuro life of everything is about the brain and the central nervous system. Even as a doctor, we know where the parasympathetic is working, where the sympathetic is working. Now, when you talk about reprogramming, it's like rewiring, right?
In
You
a right
know,
way.
in
In the right way.
in the right way.
Yeah.
So I'm actually coming to you with what we call neuroplasticity. In the right way, meaning sometimes the environment can rewire you in a different way, that it takes you a while to recover and get back to what track you want to be, right? How do you handle that kind of a situation?
Charles, life was never easy, Charles. There's always
Absolutely.
ups and downs. And, no matter how good you have, have this self-talk to reprogram yourself or rewire yourself back, there will be moments, some forces or some noise can be very, very powerful that, it gets you to doubt yourself sometimes. That is the moment that you probably need the peace and quietness. So to me, this green place is where that I go in, I sit in, I just kind of like erase everything and I try to make sense out of it. I and I first and foremost, my first guiding principle is, Thana, take care of yourself first. It's not a selfish act, it is just taking care of yourself. So I take care of it by saying, was that really made sense, whatever that noise was? Then you would tend to slowly move away because you're also doing your breathing techniques at the same time, slowly, and you move that, and you will definitely get the clarity. That's bound to happen. There are many a times, even after the self-talks that I've made, I have felt down because I've suddenly heard something else. Somebody said something else. And it takes a while for me to actually sit down, calm myself, and move in a way. To me, it's very simple. When you're down, I think just move away at that point in time, look into something, divert your thoughts on something else, do
Go for a
something else.
walk.
Yes, and come back. Come back, and then you will be a little bit more refreshed. Probably you would look at it from a neutral perspective. I wouldn't want to see the problem as a problem. I would like to see the problem as a third person. How would I want to resolve that for Thana? So that's how I actually kind of help myself as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's very powerful. I mean, that's really, really powerful because, when I look at my own life now, and towards, I mean, now, reaching the end of the 60s and going into the 70s, right? And I'm still working, still operating. But there's one part of my life which I think that I would have missed out. And listening to you, I wish you had a twin sister, and we met 30 years ago. But there's so much of our lives in such a turmoil because there is no sense of direction. And I think that when you get married and you think there's chemistry going on when two people get married, I'm sure in your corporate world, everywhere you go, everyone has that inner sage. Everyone has their dreams and realities, and when two people get together, it's tough when one has to sometimes give in to the other. And that inner sage sometimes ends up with catastrophe, divorces, everything splits up because that inner sage was not unleashed. So, what is your advice as an author of a manual that gives a roadmap to people who are struggling in that sense of space now? That they want to do what they want to do, they've had that inner speaking to them and all that, but it's not working out. They all don't have gardens like you have. So, 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 I tell you something, Thana, what you are saying is very therapeutic. They don't need to go and spend money and talk to psychiatrists and psychologists and all that when you can really have that inner voice talk to you and do that self-talk, right? It's a skill. Is it a skill?
It is. It is actually a skill. So everybody has got opinions, Charles. You're not going to, disregard the free opinions that's coming by, the free advice, the free lectures that we all get from different people. That's fine. Now, I think we have come to a level where we have got to filter ourselves. Take it as opinions.
Right.
Take it as an opinion, not to influence you to the maximum, but it is you again who's coming to think and make sense of those opinions, because the final decision is yours. You are your very own captain of your very own ship. So, fine, we have been conditioned once upon a time. Yes, you've moved away. Now it is time for you to understand, what do you really want in this life? So that's the important question, sincere question that you have got to answer. Now, sometimes when we are answering this question, we can be biased. No, everything is fine with me. I'm all right. Now, when that happens, then you are not building your core values for yourself. You see? So that's where it's coming in. So when you build your core values that is supportive for yourself, then you're able to manage all these opinions that's coming in. You see? So that's
Powerful.
important. Yeah. So to me, whenever that I want to do something, I tend to know where are my gaps. And I'm still working on the gaps. We are never perfect, Charles. We are always building ourselves into, always improvising ourselves. So that's where things are. So get the core values, rightfully what you've mentioned earlier. But that core value is actually tied in with what you really want for yourself. You don't compromise, and you actually want to move on. And of course, a lot of us are very in the comforted zone that we are in.
Yes.
Coming out of that, it's also unleashing ourselves. Moving out of that comfort zone is something very important. So normally, my friends, when I speak to some of them, they've always said, I don't want to go out of this. I don't want to go out of this. I don't want to hurt these people, but let me try to make the boundaries within that. So that's when you would actually compromise your inner sage. That means whatever is being shared by the inner sage is overshadowed by these boundaries that you have placed because you don't want to move out. Is it?
Powerful. Yeah, that is really, really, mind provoking, because you're really at mind at work. If I had my glass of tequila, which I normally have in the evenings, and if I were to go and sit in that space there, how am I to differentiate between my inner critic talking to me and my inner sage talking to me? Because they're both coming from inside.
Yes.
Which one is louder? How do you identify that? Okay, so this is sage talking, the Merlin of the inside in me, because it's so important, isn't it? Because, we can make choices in life, but we don't have the right to make any decision about the consequences of what we choose. That's part of life. That's a journey of life. So, how have you listened to both these voices and discerned that this is my inner sage speaking to me? Or do you have to wait upon it? Wait patiently and see which one comes out and plays out.
So
Give
it
us
is
that
not,
skill.
yeah, it is not an overnight kind of an exercise
There
that
you
you
go.
do and it's a practice. The many a times when I started doing this self-talk, it turned out negative at the end of the day. So you have to really practice. So for me
Okay, wait, Thana, let me stop you there.
Yep.
So when it turned out negative, that's the inner critic talking to you.
Correct.
You see, so when it turns out that this is not right, you have to realize that that's the inner critic, right?
Yes, correct. So what happens is, then I realized, you can't start your self-talk without knowing where your gaps are. So when I
Right.
started coming back with the gaps, I actually started with an easy way out because I didn't want to trouble myself with a lot of things. Just like you, I don't have the kind of time to listen to myself. That's how the entire journey started off here. So I started having this self-talk to calm myself, and suddenly it changed. And I'm like, hey, this is not supposed to be how it's supposed to be. Then I'm like, okay, let's check back. So when I looked into myself, I knew some of the gaps, and I started having some improvisation plans for it. Then I started building my very own self-talk to support my improvisation.
There
So
you go.
when the negative points that came in, I said, yes, acknowledge that you are improvising it now. So you will be fine. You will be okay, Thana. Get this, check on. So my improvisation and my self-talk moved into like supporting me. It became more of a counselor to me that was telling that, hey, you're on the right track now. You are improvising something. You're going to show some improvement in 2 months' time or 3 months' time or whatever that my path was supposed to be.
So
So
that's the inner sage being unleashed.
yes, correct.
There
And
you go.
while that was happening, then of course, like I mentioned to you, there was a lot of breathing exercises were happening. So to just to make sure that I hear some guidance from the sage coming in further to see how do I actually improvise things further. So those are some of the things that but
Nice.
it really takes practice to understand whether how do you shut the inner critics and make sure you strengthen your inner sage to talk.
There you
But for
go.
yeah, but
That's
for that realization part of what you want to happen should be with a genuine, non-biased self-assessment.
powerful. I mean, listen, bring out your second book fast because because it's so beautiful. I mean, you've said it so pointedly. Give us an example of this breathing exercise that you do. What's it like?
Okay, people normally call it as pranayama. I think anybody can actually Google in the YouTube these days. They have quite a bit of exercises that actually go in to breathe in. You hold your breath for a few seconds and then you breathe yourself. Inhale. It's basically inhale and exhale, but with a proper counters. That how long do you actually hold your breath in
Right.
and by both nostrils and then you release that. So and after that I extend it, I take it to a different level by doing some yoga to calm myself, to compose myself. And of course, I'll take it to the next level as meditation. So this is individual ways of doing things, you see, because to me, I find it, comforting by doing yoga, practicing yoga and doing meditation. Of course, we all start off with breathing techniques, but for some others, it could be just listening to music or probably going into the Zen music, or there are certain frequencies that we listen just to calm ourselves. So different options are actually there,
Sure.
Charles. Yeah,
Yes.
and some of them, they actually go into drawing some art, painting, but people
Sure.
tend to do all those things as part
Yes.
of to calm themselves and whatnot. Yes.
Yes, I mean my previous guest, she uses writing poetry as breathing for her, because it's actually breath being written into words,
Mhm.
and I think it's beautifully said, because once you get into that space, nobody can touch it, because it's just you and you. And life is always about you against you, that kind of thing, and it's a journey, well spoken of. Thank you so much for that. Now, as we come to the close of our session, just take us through some of the chapters in the book. What could people navigate through in your book, Thana, that will help them from, what's in that book? Sounds like a whole piece of life in there that we can use.
So this is the book that I've come up with, the Inner Sage. I think it started off with how do we resonate with the current dynamic environment that we are in. So it starts off by saying that the challenges that's there, what has actually got us in. Are we asking the right genuine questions to us? So that's how it comes in, and then it goes further by elaborating on what is actually the purpose of your life. Are you just here to pay bills and that's it? And so it elaborates further. Of course, there's some what stops you, the conditioning belief, the fear, the toxic family, all these things actually comes in. And then it moves on to say, how would you assess yourself? and how do you actually draw the mind map to approve or to support yourself moving forward. So with that, it flows in a little bit on how do you calm yourself and what do you actually do in order to get into the right space, to identify the critics and the sage. How do you strengthen the sage?
Nice.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it comes to that, and then it kind of rechecks again with you. Where are you? Are you all right? What is holding you now after all these chapters? So there's about 7 chapters in total, Charles. So it slowly, it's a very approachable and conversational kind of writings that I've actually made that so that it's easier. But of course, I've also have my very own website where they can actually come in to check how if I could actually assist them with the. I've actually used some tools and techniques like spider webs and mind maps, and I've even used the hierarchy. Where is your importance in life? What is actually the main thing in your life, and all those kind of things, so that it's easier for them to digest and move forward. So I also have a website, transformmefast.com. So
Nice.
they could actually come in there, and there will be some exercises to guide them on how do they actually go to assess themselves in a genuine manner, because sometimes we can be probably at level 3, and we can probably say no, I'm already at level 5, I think I'm good at this, but that's probably kind of cheating ourselves. But you would know yourself when it comes into this kind of. That's why I'm having this entire assessment in the spider web, because it's very sensitive, right? The
Right.
webs. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how I have depicted in throughout the book itself.
Nice. Well done. Congratulations on that
Thank
book. I
you.
mean,
Thanks again, Charles.
it's
Yeah.
it's so exciting to get in there, and I want to just thank you for that, because it's such a journey, isn't it, in life, and to be able to pen your thoughts down. Thank you, thank you. I mean, it's wonderful. So okay, so we've talked about this different aspects of the inner sage and how do you identify it, with the critic. It's as if that when you were talking about breathing exercises and all these mind mappings, in the 1940s, the gentleman was writing about neurons that are, wired together, fire together. And I think what we're trying to do is to new tracks that we can have, because everybody wants to be a coach. And when I go into the LinkedIn, there's life coach, this coach, that coach. It depends on what train you want to jump on. And
Yes.
and there are so many trains with so many coaches. And I think in life, the biggest challenge, Thana, is to find your inner true self, because there are many walking around with fake faces. We have one mask at work, one mask at home, one mask with friends, and I wish that we can all walk around with no mask at all and just be true to our inner selves, because that's a gift. So on that note, I want to thank you, Thana. I mean, it's been such an experience, an enlightening one, to know that there's an inner sage, that there's a Merlin within all of us, which
Thank you
has
so
the.
much, Charles, for having me on this particular show. I mean, it's really important, to identify yourself at the end of the day, because I mean, it's your life. It's a short one. I mean, make the best out of it. I mean,
Yes.
we've all would have made rookie mistakes along the way, major mistakes, but you can always take step backs and you can actually correct. It's you, it's your life. Why not? So that's my question that I always ask. It's okay, fine to make mistakes, but that's not the way throughout your journey. So we learn as we go along. So that's where we are. So like I mentioned earlier, we always look into the root cause. What has actually got you to this? Where were you supposed to head? So get in touch with the sage and unleash yourself, and this is life. Get back
Nice,
your life on track. Yeah.
nice, nice,
Thank you so
nice.
much, Charles. Yeah.
And thanks for giving me some hope.
Yes, yes. It's never too late. It's never
It's
too
never
late
it's
for
never too
anyone.
late to tap into your inner sage, because I'm going to have a big quarrel with my inner sage. Where the hell have you been hiding all this while? Or either the inner sage has been hiding, or I've been deaf to the voice from the inside. And because sometimes our lives are so loud that we forget to stop and pause. Like Sanya Suri used to say, pause, 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 until you hear that place where it tells you you're at peace with yourself. So on that note, once again, thank you from all of us on Heart Talk, from Miri, our producer, and Heidi, our coordinator. We'll have you once again on another podcast where we'll talk with a few other women. on empowering this inner sage so that we can all live a fulfilled life in this life. Thank you so much, Thana. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Right.
So, for all of you who have joined us on Heart Talk during this time, thank you for your company. I hope that you have been enriched to know that there's an inner sage in you. And it's about time that we all just stop, take stock of our lives, and at the same time listen, because that's a gift of life actually. And for all of you, remember, it's Unleash the Inner Sage Within You. You can get it on Amazon, and Dr. Thana has given us the links to that. So let's get on the right track. It's good to know that when we're on the wrong track, and I know I've been on the wrong track many years of my own life, and when I talk to the sages like Dr. Thana, it's a joy to be back on track again. So until next time, thank you and bye from all of us now from Heart Talk. We'll talk soon.